the boy Blackbeard. I'm back. What's happening? Salute. Mars the fucking assassin. Coming from the red and black temples of Atlantis. So what we're going to do in this tape is we're going to get a deeper understanding of the American Revolutionary War. Okay, the American Revolutionary War is what we're going to get the understanding from the perspective and from the viewpoint of the Aboriginal. All right. So we're looking at the American Revolutionary War from the viewpoint of the Aboriginal. Since you are the Autochthon or the indigenous person to the land, that really means that only really one person could be fighting for this land. And it could be you. Anybody else fighting for this land is a person that's trying to steal it from you. Okay. So the American Revolutionary War is primarily a war where the indigenous people on the coast of the East, the coast of the South, were fighting invading foreigners. And these invading foreigners were both mulatto or a light-skinned mixture type person, and they were a dark-skinned person as well. And of course, you had pale people with them. And they came from a variety of nations on the continent that we call so-called Asia. Okay, so some of these people, these foreigners, they were from the areas of what we call Europe. They were from the areas that we call Africa. Okay, and on the West Coast, they was from the areas that we call China or Asia. And then they were from areas that we call India. Okay, and then a few islands as well. But either way it goes, we were being invaded all across the Americas, all across the North America. All right. So right now we're going to pay attention to the invasions going along the southeast coast. OK. And the south, along Florida as well. We're going to look into some of the wars around there. But what you just got to remember is that these are a continuation of wars. So if you may hear the American Revolutionary War, then you may hear about, let's say, the Iroquois War. Then you may hear something about, let's say, the Muskogee War. Then you may hear something about the Oconee War. What you got to remember is that these are the same Aboriginals that just may come from different tribes and different geographic locations on North America that are fighting these same groups of foreigners. OK, and you also got to remember that you may have the same Aboriginal tribe fighting, let's say, 4 different groups of foreigners. And all of those 4 different groups of foreigners may have a different, way that they say that Aboriginal tribe's name. So, for example, when you have the Aboriginals along the southeast, the Yamasee, let's say, these really weren't the indigenous names. A lot of these names were names that the foreigners gave them. So the Yamasee, let's say, when they are approached by the Spaniards, the Spaniards may call them a name that's correlating to how they speak in so-called Spain. So they may say a word and it comes out to be Yamasee. But when this same Aboriginal indigenous group of Southeast people, when they meet let's say the French, when they meet the Dutch, when they meet the so-called Moroccans, when they meet all these different foreigners going to have different ways of how they pronounce these people's name. So when we're reading these history books and we seeing all these different Native American tribes, we tend to get confused and think that they are a lot of different tribes, whereas these names are really all describing the same people. It's just so many different words have been put in the lexicon when it comes to these Aboriginals. Part of it was because of course, COINTELPRO and confusion. So in the later day times of today, when we try to figure this shit out, it's a bunch of craziness. And then B, these foreigners didn't know how to speak our languages. They didn't know our names. These people had never been over here before. So when you include 2 of these things, now you can understand why we don't know what the indigenous names really are and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is just read, once again, dealing with the history of the American Revolutionary War, because even when we talk about the American Civil War, it's the same war. They just are in different years and they are in different parts of, let's say, the land under different political factions, by different, let's say, governors and politicians and presidents. So all these wars are basically fighting the same people. It's just new descendants fighting them, So it's the same war, but it may be some new faces. So it may have started out, let's say, with George Washington, who may have been more than likely a pale skin, more than likely what we would call a mulatto. Him and let's say some of these Moors, dark-skinned people who accompanied him. So we may have been fighting them in, let's say, the early 1500s, But by, let's say, 16, 17 or something like that, we still fighting this same group of people. But, George Washington, he's dead. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be a new group of people around fighting. So basically all I'm getting at is that it's the same fight. It's just new generations are getting into it. So just like today now, like when we talk about the American Revolutionary War and the American Civil War, see, y'all can't look at this shit from like this, I'm kind of studying my history shit. Like, no, like you all are the people that they fight. This is what I'm saying. Like, no, we the people that they fucking fight. See, Blackbeard know this shit because I see it in my personal life. I see how I'm still in the Yamasee War. I see how I'm still in the goddamn Muskogee War. Because shit I done been in my personal life dealing with these folks. So no, we can't just be reading this history and reading all this stuff and looking at these videos and thinking like, we this outsider. Like, no, you are the same Aboriginal people that they talking about that they fought and they slaughtered up and they raped and killed in these wars. No, that's you. So yeah, it's cool that we these people and yeah, we learning our history and shit, but at the same time, it need to put some goddamn, a little fire in you to let you know, okay, now that I know what my real identity is and I see how these folks really was dealing with me, okay, now we need to really put in some kind of work. Whatever kind of work that may be, that's of course up to all the people. But Blackbeard just putting that shit on out there. So before I go into this shit, now that I described a little bit about the American Revolutionary War, what you got to remember is that when you all think about the Caucasian people or the pale people, what this is that these people were trying to get freedom to have their own way of life, not only in religion, but basically in commerce. And at this point in time, they were still servants and participants of other people's corporations and in other people's, in business enterprises. So basically they were still working for other people. And a lot of these other people, as of right now, we're going to talk about the ancient people of the ancient Britons, or the so-called people of London that you all talk about, or the people of the so-called British Isles, the ancient Celtic, you know what I'm saying? Basically just the people that's over there, the indigenous, people of melanin over there. You got to remember now, during a lot of these wars, Aboriginal tribes was like fucking with whoever they could, get along with, and the same way that the British, or the people of Briton, the same way that they was trying to basically have a heavy hand on a lot of these, slaves trying to get their freedom, we felt the same way about them. So it's like the same way that we didn't want them running, that so-called King George didn't want them running away from him. Hell, we felt the same way too. We was like, shit, we don't want them running all over our land either. You know what I'm saying? So at a lot of this shit, we would side with certain folks that had the same faction. So let's say with the British, or the Briton, we may have made, okay, work some kind of deals out, such and such, such and such. That's why I told you all on those previous tapes that you can't get mad at all these international foreigners, because when some of them came here, they had certain agreements with certain Aboriginals and it may have been fair and equal. And there wasn't no issue between them. That's what I'm saying. Like, just because the person was foreign don't mean necessarily it was a beef. And I'm even kick some real shit to you. Like, even me as Blackbeard, like, I know in this war that I got people that look like me that's enemies, and then in this war, it's people that may not look like me, but they may not necessarily be an enemy. So even Blackbeard has had to mature and not basically, going hard on all pale people, because I have a tendency to do that, But basically what I'm getting at is that, there were some foreigners that we would make a certain deal with, and, we may have allowed them to get certain amount of acres, it may have been some kind of business transactions with certain Aboriginal confederacies and Aboriginal tribes. Okay. So some of these plantations and some of these little colonies along the coast, not all of them were stolen. Some of them, it was a business deal. And I think some of this may have been going on with the British, But anyway, some of y'all can check that out. Look into the War of 1812, when the British, or the Britons were fighting to keep their pale, servants in check, which later on became the United States, were really just plantation slaves. So look into that. I want you all to look into the Muskogee or the Creek Wars of 1836. And like I told y'all, now the Muskogee or the, so-called Creeks, these really are just the Oconee or the Yamasee. Because after a lot of these wars, a lot of our relatives, they were moving from the coast and they were moving more inland. So for example, let's say if you are a person right now and you live in the inlands of Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, or let's say Virginia. A lot of y'all's ancestors and our ancestors actually were coming and moving more inland from the coast. So when we were encountering a lot of these foreigners, you know, because they coming from the coast, because they coming through on these boats and coming into these ports. So although we had civilization all throughout the lands, you know, a lot of our shit was popping by the coast too. So when these people was invading on the coast, we would start to move more inland. And I'm going to show you all a little map of an example of that real quick, just so you'll get a point of what Blackbeard talking about. So what we have right here is a Georgia military action in the American Revolutionary War. So that means that during the American Revolutionary War, this is what was going on in Georgia. You see all these battles going on along the coast. Who you all think they was fighting along those coasts? Who you all think that the Spanish and the English and these different foreigners was encountering along the coast right here? They was encountering us. So we was fighting them on the coast, and a lot of us would stay fighting and stuff like that. But a lot of our elderly, you know what I'm saying, our people who may have been sick and couldn't move, the women and children, we would move them more inland and send them to basically different places deeper in the South and basically move them out of there. So a lot of our ancestors was on the coast and they moved more inland. So like Blackbeard, for example, a lot of my people are Muskogee Aborigines, or what we would say Oconee, but they may have started over here, you know. But continuing on, I also want you all to look up the battle in Roanoke, Georgia, okay, in 1836, was around, it's in Stewart County, okay. This is where Blackbeard's Aboriginal ancestors from, Stewart County, around Casita, Georgia, Lumpkin, Georgia. All right. Around the areas of the Chattahoochee River, Columbus, Georgia. Basically, it was a battle between the Muskogee Aborigines, or the Creeks, and the invader. OK, the Pale people in Roanoke, Georgia. All right. Stewart County. There is a place out there called the Florence Marina Park. It's basically a park out there. And when Blackbeard was growing up, all our family reunions usually are at this park. And what's very, very interesting is that the history of this park is near a lot of so-called Native American or Aboriginal American, what they call reservation, or places basically where they lived at. And at the Florence Marina, when we would go swimming and stuff, you know, it's basically a little building and stuff where the park is, but it's a bunch of it's like a campsite. It's a bunch of RV campsites out there. You know what I'm saying? It's like a real Native American, like, you know, home dwelling facility, basically. It's probably a place where a lot of our Aboriginal ancestors just, you know, where they would live. But anyway, it's a lot of RVs out there. It's just a bunch of land, wildlife land. And the place where we would have the family reunions, it's a building, of course, that was made like a big log cabin. And we would be in there eating and stuff and, you know, chilling with the fam. And in the back, it's a swimming pool. And in the back after the swimming pool, if you go, you know, basically a few feet beyond the grass, you can see the different rivers. And I'm not sure exactly which river that is, if it's the Chattahoochee or whatever, but basically it's on the southern end of the Florence Marina Park in Stewart County. You know what I'm saying? And that's just some of Blackbeard's stomping ground where he grew up at. But also look up the Battle of Fort Mitchell around 1813, 1825, you know, in the areas of Georgia, Alabama, once again. Where the lower Muskogee Aborigines was fighting, you know, during this whole Indian Removal Act, when they was trying to move us more west. Because remember, they was trying to move us west. So that means if they keep pushing us more and more west, that means that we had to be east at some point. So that's what the whole Indian Removal Act was all about, is trying to move us more west, like I showed you all on the map. And also, too, you know, there were Creek Aborigines in Florida, you know what I'm saying, as well. So if you all are hearing the terms Yamasee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Oconee, Ocmulgee, the Flint River Aboriginal, you know, etc., you know, the Tuscarora, these are the same people. They are the same people. So right now, Blackbeard gonna give y'all some reading, of course. Y'all know how he do this shit. Coming out of the book, The History of Georgia. We're going to just talk a little bit about the Muskogee Aborigines in Georgia, and how a lot of these mulattoes, or who we gonna call the grays, a lot of these mixed so-called Native Americans, how a lot of them sold us out. And what was happening is a lot of these land deals that the so-called state of Georgia or whoever was, the foreigner coming in, they weren't doing deals with Aboriginals who look like this. You know what I'm saying? So the way that this sister look like here, right here, and the way Blackbeard looks, y'all see Blackbeard's fist? The way Blackbeard looking, the way that she looks, they weren't doing the land deals with people that look like that. They was doing land deals with the grays, the so-called Native Americans y'all see on them reserves today. They was doing deals with them. You'll see why I say that shit in a minute. I'll show you another picture real quick. So right here you have basically a Georgia 5 shilling note of 1762. So basically like some little money that they was using on the colonies. But who I want you to pay attention to is who is this character right here? So these are the people right here that was in Georgia in 1762 that the foreigners were putting on their money that they were trading with each other during the colonial period. It's a so-called Aboriginal of Georgia right there, people. So they look like a so-called black person. I don't know if that's how they're showing up, but that is an Aboriginal right there, But you can clearly see it looked like a so-called black person. I really don't know how that shit's showing up on the camera. I hope y'all can see that shit. But it's definitely an Aboriginal. They look like us. All right, here go the reading. It's going to say Indians, but I'm going to say Aboriginal. So I'm going to put this in the proper context so ain't nobody confused. Aboriginals made up the other non-white group in Georgia. Also, when they say non-white, don't think in your head all pale-skinned people. When they say in non-white, they basically mean in dark-skinned, mulatto, and pale-skinned people that have money. So the white people are the people in the higher status. Those are even some of these Moors from North Africa. So don't think that white just means pale people. So when they say non-whites, they mean even foreigners with, some so-called melanin, but they just have money and they not Aboriginal. It says in 1780, most Georgia Aborigines showed little signs of the traits that were secure for them the title of the civilized tribes. But by 1820, great strides had been made towards adopting the white man's civilization to their own needs. Now, I also want you to keep in mind with this. A lot of these tribes that I'm going to be naming off, some of them are, it's going to be confusing to y'all now, but not all Native American tribes are indigenous to America. And what I mean by that is that you have certain Native American tribes that are not the ancient people. And they have in some of their records and accounts that they are not the ancient indigenous Aboriginal people. So even though they may have been here a few thousand years, they're not us. And they know that, and they have that even in their historical accounts. What else was I about to say? Also, too, so some of these Aboriginal tribes, once again, they were amalgamated and they're not indigenous to here. And also, when they talk about the Seminoles in Florida, you got to remember that the Seminoles in Florida are basically an amalgamated tribe. Because originally, the Seminoles in Florida are the stock of the Yamasee, the Oconee, the Hitchiti, the different Muskogee Aborigines, and basically the ones that was in the central and southern parts of the Savannahs of Georgia. And when we were going deeper into the South, once again, like we was going, some of us went inland and we went west around, the Muskogee, and we became the Muskogee Aborigines. But some of us went south and we became basically the core people that, a lot of these pale people ran into when they came off the plantations. A lot of the mixed mulatto people when they came off the plantations, and a lot of the dark skin or the so-called black people when they came off the plantations. That was foreign. And they came into the Floridas and mixed in with us, So that's how you have a lot of these Native American tribes today. And even some of us have, and that's also why some of us have European blood in us. Like even in Blackbeard, like somewhere in Blackbeard family, I'm pretty sure there are some European, or what we would call some Moors from across the Atlantic in Blackbeard's bloodline, of course. But the primary stock of people are Aborigine. But every now and then, somewhere in your ancestry, it may be a few foreign dark-skinned people in there, So they would marry in with the Aboriginals, once again from business, or maybe they just, accepted them into their communities, But either way it goes, the Seminoles, that's kind of one of those types of tribes. So it says that, and they say in adopting the white man's civilization, see, a lot of the reasons they started adopting the white man's ways is because of the mixed children that he started having with the Aboriginal women. You see? And these mixed children never sided with their Aboriginal mothers. So let me put that out there for you Aboriginal women out there that call yourselves like in either swirl or y'all into whatever kind of stuff. Always remember that your mulatto mixed child will never side with you. They always mix with they always relate to their foreign father. Okay? They always relate to their foreign father. Always remember that now. Your mulatto child or your mixed child, your pale child, your amalgamated child, they're going to never identify with you. They're going to always identify with the foreign father. Always remember that. Because that's what happened in history. But anyway, it says, in the Indian policy and appointed agents to handle Indian affairs, in the Treaty of Holston of 1791 with the Cherokees, who made the most rapid progress in a new civilization, the United States promised to help the Indians to develop agriculture, household manufacturers, and crafts such as blacksmiths and carpentry. See, you got to remember that not all tribes was fucking with them like that. So once again, the Cherokees could have been a tribe that either A, they may have not been Aboriginal all the way like we were. Maybe not all Cherokees are indigenous. That's what I'm saying. Like, we got to look into some of this stuff, because why were some of these so-called Native American tribes quicker to work with the foreigner versus other ones? You see what I'm saying? It got to be a reason. Because when you look at a lot of the ones that's in the South, once again, the ones I keep naming, the Blackbeard folk, the Oconees, the Yamasees, the Savannahs, the Yamasee, the Utah, the people of Judah. Once again, they have a Jerusalem, Georgia. Did y'all know that there was a Jerusalem, Georgia, right along the far eastern part of Georgia? Did y'all know that there was a Egypt, Georgia, in the far east of Georgia? Because it's over here. Atlanta, Georgia, it's Atlantis. So us in the deep South, not only was it the most Aboriginals here in the Americas, in North America, but we also the ones that was fighting and bucking the most. So now we're not trying to sign no motherfucking peace treaty and no land deal with you, partner. I'm putting that red and black on my face and I'm coming to get you, man. And also, too, shout out to all the brothers out there. Shout out to the brother Autochthonous one. I saw he shouted me out. You know what I'm saying? Salute to him. A real Aboriginal putting in real work. That made a lot of shit that Blackbeard done turned up off of. You know what I'm saying? So y'all salute and shout him out, man. The brother Autochthonous one. He on my subscription list. I'm subscribed to his shit. But that dude, also too, I need to say something else for this dude, this amalgamated guy here named Angel. I don't really know the guy. You know what I'm saying? I don't really talk about people I don't know. But you need to chill out with all this information you're putting out that don't seem too, it don't seem healthy, I would say. You need to chill out, man, because, us brothers in the South, we wild, man. Blackbeard was goddamn taking niggas' boats when they was coming down the Creek River, thinking that they finna make some trade or something, thinking the French finna trade some little silver with the Spanish. Blackbeard coming with that red and black and a few Aboriginal goons with feathers in their head. You know what I'm saying? We done blended in the forest and the woods of Georgia. We blend in real good with them leaves. Blackbeard stay in the woods of Georgia easily. You know what I'm saying? I grew up doing that shit. I can really be out here in the lands like that. So we really on this shit, man. Like, so, us niggas in the South, man, we ain't playing now. But anyway, so it says the United States agents, Benjamin Hawkins and Return J. Meigs, urged agriculture and crafts on the Cherokee. The Cherokee interest in this approach was increased by whites and mixed breeds who lived within the nation, and by the Indian belief that as game declined, it would be impossible to continue their old hunting and trading economy. So it says right here that the Cherokees' interest in this approach was increased by whites and mixed breeds who lived within the nation. So that's what I'm saying. So the Cherokees, they was amalgamated. They had a lot of, amalgamated people. And that's what I'm saying. See, it was a lot of other Aboriginal nations and tribes that we wasn't mixing in with these people like that. So don't let these folks fool y'all and think that every Aboriginal tribe mixed in and every Aboriginal tribe created mulatto or pale people, or what we call these Native American people. And not every Aboriginal tribe did that. It was only certain tribes that did that shit. So if y'all want to know the tribes that sold us out, we need to look at the ones who was making deals and land deals that really wasn't on behalf of the indigenous people, of course. And then all the ones that just quickly, accepted the Christianity and quickly was pushing the Christianity. And these were the ones that sold out. You know what I'm saying? And look at this part. It says the Creeks did not change their ways as rapidly as the Cherokee, but eventually they decided it would be necessary. So here you have right here, it says that the Creeks or the Muskogees or the Yamasee and the Oconee, who got pushed far west and they started calling them Muskogee or Creek. These Aboriginals were not quick to change like the Cherokees. But the reason why it says that eventually they did, because it would be necessary, is because once again, all of the wars, you know what I'm saying? When you have family and other people around, you may be a warrior or on your killer or murderer assassin shit as a man, but sometimes you got to make choices for the other people. So, some of the Aboriginal tribes was like, God damn, this shit crazy. Like, these motherfuckers trying to steal the land. We want to go to war, but, we got to keep transporting and moving our family and friends around. So it's like, God damn, like, we got to goddamn, make a few deals with these motherfuckers, even though we don't really want to. You know what I'm saying? It kind of got to some shit like that. Then it says that Hawkins urged the Indians to engage in agricultural individually rather than following the old communal method. But he succeeded mainly with the mixed breeds and with those who own Negro slaves. Okay, now pause. So this Hawkins that we talking about is Agent Benjamin Hawkins of the United States. So first of all, he ain't on your side. He ain't doing nothing but coming to steal land. So let me give you another name of this bastard. The United States Agent Benjamin Hawkins. And what he did is he came to the Aboriginals and he said, look, I don't want y'all doing the agriculture as a community no more. I don't want y'all growing y'all y'all crops and vegetables and fruits together, trading together and all that. Man, I don't really want y'all doing it like that. What we're going to do now is I'm going to pull y'all over as individuals and we're going to set you up with your own plantation over here. Nah, man, you don't need the family Aboriginal land no more. Come over here, man. You can get your own acres. You can get your own plantation. So that's what these crackers started doing to us. So a lot of these mixed ass, mulatto ass Native Americans who had white fathers, pale fathers, because like I said, Aboriginal woman, they always sell you out. They never side with you. They always side with their pale father. So in this cracker, and these people like Benjamin Hawkins, this fucking agent, when they came in and they told Aboriginals, well, not Aboriginals, but these Native Americans, these mixed mulatto ones, who knew our culture, who knew our language because they had Aboriginal mothers, they told them, they said, look, fuck these Aboriginal people. Fuck y'all Aboriginal moms. You know what I'm saying? We just use them as whores anyway. We don't marry them like that. We just use them to get on the land anyway. You think that them motherfuckers didn't know that shit? That was a known thing that them pale European men back then. It was a known thing to just marry the Aboriginal woman and have a child with her so you can now have a tie to the land. That's what the Pocahontas ritual was. Why you think they sold y'all that dream as a child? Why you think they showed y'all that shit and Disney showed y'all, put into the Aboriginal mind, the Aboriginal woman's mind as a child, that it's okay to marry the pale man? Because when you create the mulatto child, that's how he has a tie to your land. So if I don't see Aboriginal women out here with these feathers and shit, if y'all claiming y'all riding for this shit really, then y'all need to go to war with that swirling campaign. Because what they doing is basically are perpetuating the same ritual and creating more and more amalgamated Native American tribes who at the end gonna basically sell y'all out. And they gonna know our language and culture because they got Aboriginal moms and they around our shit. So if you Aboriginal women who claim y'all love Aboriginal men so much, if y'all don't get y'all motherfucking tomahawk and go to war with this shit, Blackbeard got the styrofoam shit right here, on my Falcon shit. My little sister went to the game or whatever and she gave me this shit. But yeah, you see the tomahawk. Why you think they call the Atlanta Braves and why we got the tomahawk? Cause this is what we was cutting motherfuckers' heads off with this shit, man. The Atlanta Braves, the Atlantis Braves. The Yamasee Braves. We was brave in this shit. We was fighting. You was Aboriginal women fighting. You know what I'm saying? The Aboriginal women killing motherfuckers. Going to the pale Mankeys, making them think that the Aboriginal men went to hunt, and y'all gonna come back to the campsite and we gonna have a ghetto gag and orgy. And the Aboriginal women would make him come back, and the pale Mankey think he finna get some pussy and some head. And next thing you know, we jump out with that red and black paint on our face and cut his dick off and cut his scalp off. So I'm saying, you Aboriginal women, y'all better goddamn get ready to ride for this shit or get the fuck off my page. Which one is it gonna be? But anyway, so as this shit says, where Blackbeard was at before he went off. Okay, I did that one. So let me show y'all a picture. What we got right here is a population distribution of 1810. So in 1810, this is how Georgia was looking. Now, what I want you to know is that this white part that you see with no lines in it is Indian or Aboriginal territory. So we was still over here and all this shit. But originally, all this was Aboriginal territory. But notice how I say that they always was fighting us on the coast during the American Civil War, and we moved inland. So as we moved more and more inland, they had more and more space to build up land. And that's what all this shit is you see right here. These are the counties. So when they talk about the county of goddamn Bartow, Chatham County, you know what I'm saying? Coweta County and all these different counties that they chopped up. They started doing that after they moved us more inland. But that's basically what happened. So you can't call the Aboriginals that staying over here, like the Muskogee and the Creek Aborigines over here. These really just the Oconee and the Yamasee Aborigines from over here. These Aborigines that stayed over here are the sons and daughters of the Aboriginals that was over here, and they just moved more and more inland. But anyway, this is a picture of that shit. I just wanted y'all to see the Aboriginal territory was in 1810. We was, far west, more in West Georgia, but originally, we was over here. Okay. One more time. The Georgia military action in the American Revolutionary War. So once again, so if this is the American Revolutionary War, of course there's some colonies on here. I'm not saying that it's not. But you got to remember that there's Aboriginals that's fighting in this shit too for their own land. You see? So I just want y'all to see this shit one more time. This is the American Revolutionary War as far as is Georgia. When you was fighting the Spanish, you know what I'm saying? And them dirty ass Moors, the Boule Moors. Also from now on too, if we in order to make this shit very, very easy to understand, we're going to start calling them the Boule Moors. So even if they came from North Africa, even if they came from Europe, we're going to still call them the Boule Moors. So now when you see the Moors and the Boule or these different fraternities and sororities, you'll know what that shit is about. Also, too, I heard about y'all AKAs at Fort Valley. Blackbeard gonna get on y'all ass. But anyway, but yeah. And this that picture I showed y'all earlier, but it was a little blurry. But this is a 5 shillings, Georgia 5 shillings. So basically, once again, on the colonies, a little bill. It says this intended bill of credit due from His Majesty's province of Georgia shall pay, currency and blah, 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 5 shillings sterling. So this is a little Georgia money, okay, for the, Aboriginal, for, I guess, the foreigner. But look who they got on their money. Who is that? Who is this copper-colored, dark-colored, bronze-skinned colored person right here in Georgia with a grass skirt on and a feather crown? Who is this Aboriginal right here? This looks like a Yamasee person to me. Because they said that the Yamasee people were very, very athletic. And they look like athletes, basically. And they said all the, Aboriginal men in Georgia, they had, they look like athletes. But who is this right here? That's right. Those are so-called black people. That's right. So here you have right here. This is 1762, a 5 shillings bill from the province of so-called King George. But look who he put on his money, because this is who he know really runs the land. And this is who he know is on the land. And this is who he know gave him permission to be on the land. To set his colony up. And that's you and me, ladies and gentlemen. So you have always been in Georgia if you are from Georgia. So Blackbeard just cleared that up for all the brothers and sisters. I was wondering about this shit. What else I wanted to say? yeah, that's the history of what we're going to deal with for today. Because I wanted to help y'all understand that the American Revolution basically has not ended. It's still going on. And that's just what's going on. All right. So to wrap it up, what you got to remember is that Aboriginal tribes some of them did live inland. Okay, because once again, we had mound societies, and we had mounds all across, especially, the west part of Georgia. Okay, and we would live around these mounds, but also we would have societies and civilizations on the coast, because once again, we were traveling over here too. When they talk about pirates of the Caribbean, you don't think that the Aboriginals in Georgia and in Alabama never traveled down to Central and South America? You don't think we knew about that and we was going back and forth between the Southeast and Central and South America? Of course we were. Of course we were. That's why certain words, when you deal with certain Aboriginal tribes in the Southeast, that kind of tie into the Mayan and the Incan words that are in Central and South America. So don't think that the Aboriginals were just staying in the Southeast. Because remember now, remember what I'm telling you. Most of the Aboriginals were in the Southeast now. Of course, we was across the entire North Americas, but I'm saying is a good concentrated portion. There's a lot of so-called black people in the South. That's why it's a lot of so-called black people in the South today. Because it's always been like this. It's always been the most black people in the Southeast. But a lot of us came here from the West. That's right. So a lot of us even came from the far West, like around California and stuff like that. But basically, we was always traveling across the Americas. You know what I'm saying? We was going up to the areas of New York. You know what I'm saying? Going over to the areas of California. You don't think we was trading the hemp and the so-called marijuana and all that? You don't think that the Incas in Peru, you don't think that they knew about the cocaine? The Aboriginals and the Colombians, the Aboriginals down there, you don't think they knew about the cocaine? Why y'all think that the so-called Egyptian, that they found cocaine in the so-called Egyptian's tomb, and they found marijuana in the Egyptian's tomb? Who gave the Egyptian and that marijuana and that cocaine? The Aboriginals in South America and North America did. So all the drugs and all that was over here. When they came over here, you think that we were just smoking tobacco in them pipes? Hell no. The brothers was rolling the fuck up. Where y'all think they got the concept of Cuban cigars? Like, who y'all think was down doing that shit? We was doing that shit. The Tiano, the Aerowax, all the Aboriginals, Central America, South America, North America. How they in there selling, how they sell the Dutch Masters, the Dutch, how they sell the Backwoods and stuff, them different cigars. Like, where y'all think they got them concepts from? Who you think they saw smoking them when they came here? And I'm going to say this and wrap it up. Like, they got one called Dutch Master. I just remember this because I saw it in the gas station the other day. But they got the pale Mankeys on there. Who do you think that they was trading with? Because first of all, the original Dutch didn't look like them. They looked like us. So who do you think the original Dutch was trading the tobacco with to where that they would put Dutch Masters and have Dutch people on there? Who they was getting the tobacco from? You know what I'm saying? So once again, all this shit come from over here. And that shit facts. And I'll say this again and wrap it up. The Southeast also had a different type of climate. Because we got to remember that when these pale Mankeys and these damn Moors and all these people, dirty ass Boule, came here. Once again, now, from now on, when I say dirty Moor, think about Boule. But when these people came here, they cut down a lot of the trees. They cut down a lot of trees and started trying to build civilization. So that means that the weather and the climate started to change. So now my next homework assignment for you all is this. What do you think that the ancient America's climate was like when there was still a lot of trees here? And it was able to basically create a lot of rain and a lot of water. Now that would make North America more like a jungle, wouldn't it? So what I'm getting at is people that North America at some point in time was kind of like the